And what I realized in the making of this film, and I think what terrified me the most, is that everything I value as a person of a democracy, all the advances we've made, over the last 50 years in terms of fair housing, fair equal employment, civil rights, civil liberties, all of these things, they are all rapidly being transformed by AI. And what my concern is that has been remarkably in the hands of few decision makers from homogeneous backgrounds.
You say more about what, based on your making of the film, what accountability would look like given this kind of asymmetry of power?
Yes, I mean, I tend to think of legislation. My mantra is sort of like, don't leave the tech bros alone on this stuff. I think that there is an inclusion crisis in the tech industry, both in terms of gender, of AI researchers being 14%, which is abysmal, and people of color I couldn't even find stats on. And I think more people need to be in the room. And I also think more ethicists and outside auditors need to be in the room for these algorithmic systems. But I don't think it should be up to the technology companies. I think that I'm sort of fascinated by Kathy O'Neill's idea of an FDA, of having a system that sets a certain standards of practices for algorithms for which they have to be vetted before they get deployed at scale.
It just seems to me that I guess there's no turning back with these algorithms, but it feels to me that we could identify the problem in two ways. One, algorithms are fine. They're just biased. And so we need to make sure that we do a better job, right, of, doing all that vetting and things that you're saying. Or that it's just the mere presence of, that there's no way around it. The mere presence of algorithms is ultimately always going to be problematic because as your movie shows, algorithms embed our history. So when we look at all the ways AI makes mistakes, Apple credit card gives men and women, even spouses, different credit limits. Amazon's recruiting bot, discriminated against women. United Health's algorithm, led to racial bias in treatment conditions. These are all things that I had been reading about and then showed up in your film. I was so excited.
And so in the making of the film, because so much of what we know about comes from the mind of Steven Spielberg and Stanley Kubrick and these great sci-fi writers, I sort of use these tropes to help us understand what's happening right now in AI, the same sort of visual language to help us understand. But what's remarkable to me is how close they often are. When you look at Minority Report and what's happening already right now around predictive policing, some of these things are just, you couldn't invent a sci-fi scenario. So I think they're remarkably close. And I think we have to remember when we see signs of when we see signs of an Orwellian reality, we should all be a little alarmed.
Right.